Posey says she found out the school was putting black students in two separate classes with two separate teachers.
You cannot segregate classrooms. You can't do it.
Here's a report from WSB in Atlanta about actual racial segregation in a public school in the city. This is the local news report. It's a little bit long. It's a couple minutes, but I think it's worth watching. Also, when we play long clips, it gives me a chance to drink coffee. That's the real reason we do this. But let's watch this. Go ahead.
We've lost sleep trying to figure out, why would a person do this?
Kyla Posey says she was stunned when she learned about classes segregated by race at Mary Lynn Elementary last year, a practice she says was put in place and condoned by Principal Sharon Briscoe.
First, it was just disbelief that I was having this conversation in 2020 with a person that looks just like me, a black woman. It's segregating classrooms. You cannot segregate classrooms. You can't do it.
Posey says she found out the school was putting black students in two separate classes with two separate teachers. The white kids were placed in 6 classes with 6 different teachers. The parent says she found this out when she let Briscoe know she wanted her child placed in the classroom of a teacher she thought would be a good fit. Posey says the principal said that wouldn't work.
She said that that's not one of the black classes, and I immediately said, what does that mean? I was confused. I asked for more clarification. I was like, we have those in the school? And she proceeded to say that, yes, I have decided that I'm going to place all of the black students in 2 classes.
Posey says she insisted her child be placed in a class with white students. She says Briscoe explained her child would be isolated.
And I explained to her she shouldn't be isolated or punished because I'm unwilling to go along with your illegal and unethical practice.
The Poseys recorded a call with an assistant principal where they complained about the segregated classes. The administrator confirmed it was the principal's decision and seemed to offer an explanation why the classes were set up this way.
We have more black kids too, and then some of them are in a class because of the services that they need.
We'd like to say that this is shocking, actual racial segregation in the classroom. It's about the most illegal thing, one of those fundamentally illegal things a school could possibly do is to racially segregate their classrooms and actually call them. There was no attempt to hide it. It wasn't like they came up with different labels for this and, it just so happens that it worked out racially in this way. No, it's like, that's our black class and this is our white class, right? We'd like to call that shocking. I don't think we really can. I mean, we have gone full circle, and we're back to this now. Racial segregation sort of approached from the opposite direction now, though. Where now it's a matter of we're going to segregate because we're trying to get the white kids away. Racial segregation in the Jim Crow era was the other way. We don't want the white people to have to deal with the black people, so we're gonna put them over there. Now it's just that in the reverse. And I say reverse, which isn't to say that it's reverse racism, because of course there's only one kind of racism. If you're a person and you think that people of another race are inferior, then that makes you a racist no matter what race you are. But this is the reverse approach to racial segregation, reverse from what it was, 100 years ago. And so that's not a surprise. This is the direction we've been headed. They've been doing this kind of thing in universities and in colleges for a while now. Maybe not that explicit, like we're going to have a white class and a black class, but we're going to have a black-only space where black people can get together, or people of color, BIPOC can all get together, and we don't want white people intruding on that space. We've been doing stuff like that in colleges for a while now. So this is where it's headed. If there's anything sort of surprising here, it's that the principal, again, made no attempt to hide it. And so she assumed that everybody was okay with it. The mother talking to the principal, and the principal says, oh yeah, it's our black class. And the mother has to say, wait, what? The what now? Our black class. What's the problem with that? And based on this report, now maybe there were other parents who were upset, but if there were, they seem to be in the minority. It's mainly this mother who's objecting. which means either the other parents didn't care and were on board with it, or they never heard about it. I don't know which would be more disturbing. There could be some combination of the two. That tells you something about public school. That's why I'm always harping on this. You send your kid into a government building for 7-8 hours a day, you're not going to know everything you're not going to know almost anything that happens. You're only going to know what your kid tells you. And especially when they're younger, they're not going to tell you a whole hell of a lot. I get home from school and I get home from work and I sit down with my kids and I always ask them, what'd you do today? How'd it go? Like, I want to hear about their day. And they never have a whole lot to say. Like, they'll home in on one little detail. Like yesterday I came home, I asked them how to go today. And the only thing they told me, they were very excited to tell me, but the only thing they told me about was that they found a deer skull in a creek near our house, which is very exciting for kids. I don't blame it, but that's the only event from the day, and everything was about the deer skull. For a kid, that's the only thing that matters, right? So when I hear from parents and they say, "Oh, it's all, as long as you're in a conversation with your kids and you have an open line of dialogue, you don't have to worry about it because they're going to tell you what's going on." And no, they're not. When they're very young, they're not going to. The things that you know are important and that you'd like to hear about, they don't know that that's important. I think the kids who are racially segregated, they don't understand. They don't know the history of this, of racial segregation in the school. They don't see a problem with it. They might not even told their parents. So the things that you know are important, your kids don't know that. So they might not tell you. And then as kids get a little bit older, and even if they do know that something's important, they might not want to tell you because they don't want you causing a stink about it and all these other things. And also they're being conditioned by the school to think that these things are okay. So you can't rely on that. Another argument it's an argument for homeschooling as always, also an argument for cameras in the classroom. So that you could actually see that happening when they segregate the classrooms by race. As we come full circle back to racial segregation, this is a tool. Race, any kind of tribalism is a tool for those in power. A very effective tool, as we've seen, to manipulate and exploit and control people. And it has proven, this tool has proven far too alluring to those who are in power now, from the federal government all the way down to the school systems. It's far too alluring. So they're exploiting it. There was a what we now have to call, unfortunately, a brief moment in time in this in history that I can remember going back to when I was in school in the 90s, where we had something like racial harmony. It wasn't perfect. Nothing is ever going to be perfect in a human society, but it was as perfect as you could hope for it to be, probably. Where race was not something that I remember talking about or focusing on as a kid. We didn't talk about it much in school. We were all kids going to school, didn't really think much about it. You notice the differences, you don't think about it, you don't dwell on it. You don't see anything particularly significant about it. And that was the state of affairs for, a couple of decades maybe. Until the powers that be said, no, this is a tool that is way too useful. And now we're going back to how it was before. The system isn't broken, it's rigged. Banks get rich while you stay buried in debt. That's not an accident, that's the plan. PDS Debt has helped hundreds of thousands of people flip the script on credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, and all those high-interest traps. They know how to beat their companies at their own game. Your money, your future. It's time to take it back with PDS Debt. PDS Debt doesn't just crunch numbers and call it a day. They actually take the time to understand your specific situation and build a plan that works for you, not some cookie-cutter approach. Here's the best part. They don't care what your credit score looks like, whether it's pristine or completely shot. They're focused on one thing and one thing only, helping you save more money, crush your debt faster, and finally start keeping more of what you earn instead of handing it over to creditors every month. They've built their reputation by actually delivering results, which is why they have an A+ rating in the Better Business Bureau. thousands of 5-star Google reviews and a perfect score on Trustpilot. When you're drowning in debt, you need someone in your corner who knows how to fight back, and that's exactly what PDS Debt does for their clients every single day. You're 30 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find the best options for you right now. pdsdebt.com/Walsh. That's pdsdebt.com/Walsh. pdsdebt.com/Walsh. Fox News, it says Columbia University is planning to hold 6 additional graduation ceremonies for students according to their race and other aspects of how they identify. The New York City School's website details graduation ceremonies for Native Asian, Latinx, and Black students taking place for Columbia College, Columbia Engineering, General Studies, and Barnard College at the end of April. Another dubbed FLI graduation is for first-generation and/or low-income communities. And then the school is also hosting a lavender graduation for the LGBTIAQ plus community. So now they're defending this by saying that they're still having a regular graduation for everybody, but then they're going to have the segregated ones too on top of that. So that makes it okay? So if you had segregated drinking fountains, but you also had a drinking fountain that anyone could use, would that make it okay? You got black and white drinking fountains. So we go back to that, black and white drinking fountains. And then if anyone complains, we say, no, but there's also a drinking fountain across the hallway that you can, and anyone can use that one. This is segregation. This is actual racial segregation that is being reinstated by the left. And it does make me wonder, so if you've got the regular graduation and then all these other graduations, does that mean that, so what about a student who's a student, also gay, also black, also indigenous? Would they go to like 6 different graduations? I guess so. This is how we have, it really is amazing to witness how we've gone just full circle right back to Jim Crow. And we are doing it in the name of racial tolerance and equality. Going right back to separate but equal. And I hate to use the term because this is so overused and used so often by people who've never even read the book, or any of his books, but it really is Orwellian. There's no other real word to describe it. The way that racial equality has now become synonymous with the very thing that those who were fighting for racial equality historically were trying to get rid of, which would be segregation. This is from CNS News. It says an executive producer at America's largest owner of radio stations, iHeartMedia, advertised a job Thursday by stating, "We are looking at only diverse hires at this time." Only diverse hires, quote unquote. Molly Socha, executive producer of custom podcasts at iHeartMedia, made the statement in an email sent to a listserv interested in the New York City radio industry and obtained by CNS News. Socha said, quote, "Diversity is incredibly important to our team and our company, so we're looking at only diverse hires at this time." While the iHeartMedia producer made this stipulation in her email, it apparently is nowhere to be found in the public listing for the job. Instead, the public announcement states that iHeartMedia is an equal opportunity employer and will not tolerate discrimination in employment on the basis of race, color, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity expression, religion, disability, ethnicity, national origin, marital status, protected veteran status, genetic information, or any other legally protected classification or status. Which is, of course, exactly what they're doing. This is a violation of equal opportunity employment. They're saying that, because we could translate this, of course, when they say we're only looking for diverse hires, in other words, we don't want a white person. And so in order to ensure diversity, they're eliminating ahead of time an entire category of people. They're limiting the number of people or the pool that they're going to select from in the name of diversity. Narrowing it down in the name of diversity. And the whole idea that a person can be diverse, I don't know exactly what that's supposed to mean. You've got a diverse person versus an undiverse person. Or a non-diverse person. Here's an update to this story, though, posted last night. Socha emailed the NYC radio listserv shortly after being contacted by CNS News with the following statement. I made an error in language in my last note, so I just want to clarify, all are welcome to apply, and we will consider all qualified candidates. That being said, in our efforts to elevate diverse voices in the predominantly white podcast space, we strongly encourage engineers, editors of color, regardless of gender and sexual orientation, to apply. Yeah, that's a little too late for that. You made an error in language. No, you didn't. You expressed what you're looking for. That's not an error in language. It's not an error at all. It's actually not a mistake. You were being very clear about what you wanted. It should be too late for that. I mean, there should be a massive lawsuit against iHeartMedia for this. Just like there would be if they sent out an email saying, we're really looking for a white employee on this one. That's really what we're looking for. You think they could send out that email and then the next day or a few hours later say, oh, no, we'll consider non-white employees also, or non-white applicants. No, they've revealed their intent. And that should be enough right there.